Welcome to Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Weldin. Today's story is called My Cat Hippo, Part 1, and it's an original story written for you by Daniel Hinds. Thanks! Enjoy the episode! My Cat Hippo, Part 1. Once upon a time, there was a small girl named Leah. She wasn't small like Tinkerbell or Thumbelina, though the other kids called her that sometimes. No, she was just the shortest girl in her class, by, a lot. She wasn't the youngest, so it didn't seem fair. But then again, like her dad always said, the world wasn't fair. At least she wasn't alone. She was followed all over the house by her slinky little cat named Hippo. She had gotten to pick the name, and she was very proud of it. Hippos had been her favorite animal at the time. Well, second, after cats. Unfortunately, Hippo hadn't lived up to his name. He had only grown a little since he was a kitten, and was definitely one of the smallest house cats that Leah had ever seen. Because of that, she felt like Hippo understood her better than anyone, and she'd often confide in the little guy as he prowled around her room. "Why do we have to be so small, Hippo?" she asked. "Meow, meow," the cat replied, batting an old toy car back and forth across her rug. He liked the way it rolled and would get it going and then pounce on it like a tiger. "You're right," Leah said. "We'll get bigger someday. At least, I hope so." With Hippo being her cat, she also did most of the cat chores. She scooped his litter box, helped keep him clean, and even fed him his pills when he was sick. He hated taking them, so she had to wrap them in these fishy-smelling treats to trick him into gobbling them up. It was pretty gross, but she loved little Hippo a lot, so she didn't really mind in the end. Hippo could be a pain sometimes, though. He would jump on her lap and scatter her homework. Then he'd play his favorite game. His ears would twitch, and then he'd start pushing her cup of water closer and closer to the edge of the desk. His game was waiting to see if she'd stop him before it fell. Usually she did, but sometimes he got away with it, and then ran wildly from the room. It was annoying, but Leah understood. When you were really little, sometimes it was just nice to be noticed. "Why can't I be bigger?" Leah asked her parents at bedtime. "You're still growing," her mom said. "Just give it time." "But I don't want to give it time. I'm tired of always being the smallest." "Well, there's nothing wrong with being small," Dad said. He was pretty short himself, and it never seemed to bother him much. "Besides," Mom said, "you're big where it counts." She tapped Leah's temple with a smile. "Yeah," Dad said, "you have your mom's big brain." "And your dad's big heart." "And your mom's big smelly feet," Dad started to say. And then Mom tackled him, and the whole thing devolved into a tickle fight. Leah laughed and went to sleep. But the next day, she was still the smallest at school. And while the other kids weren't exactly mean to her, they weren't super nice about it either. She always got compared to Tinkerbell and American Girl dolls, even though she wasn't that small. When she tried to point out that the doctor said she was a normal height for her age, the other kids just laughed. Around then, Leah and her parents went to visit her Meemaw Maury over school vacation. They left Hippo with a neighbor, and Leah hugged him goodbye about 1,000 times. The car ride was long and boring, but it was worth it because Leah loved her Meemaw's house. It was up in the woods, and Meemaw always had candles and incense burning and strange crystals and tarot cards and all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff. Sometimes Leah thought her Meemaw was basically a witch. But the nice and cool kind, not the gingerbread house, eat up Hansel and Gretel kind. "Oh, my family!" Meemaw called when they parked in her old dirt driveway and got out of the car. "Meemaw!" Leah shouted, running in to give her a big hug. "Little Leah! Oh, have you grown? I swear you're bigger." I'm 1 inch taller than last year, Leah said, thrilled that she'd noticed. 1 inch and 1 year older, Meemaw said. That deserves a treat. They all went inside and Meemaw fed them her special chocolate chip cookies, fresh from the oven. They stayed for a few days, working in the garden and baking and laughing and playing all kinds of games. It was a great trip, and on the last night before they were leaving, Leah and Meemaw were sitting on her porch, watching the sunset in her old rocking chairs. Is something bothering you, Leah? Meemaw asked, sipping her tea. How can you tell? Leah asked, sipping her own hot chocolate. Meemaw can always tell. So, what's going on? Leah sighed and told her about how she was the smallest in class. She told her how the other kids would call her Tinkerbell or a baby or ask if she belonged in kindergarten and stuff like that. Meemaw listened close the whole time and then gave Leah a big hug at the end. Leah had even cried a little, but Meemaw pretended not to notice, which Leah appreciated. The next morning, when they were loading up the car, Meemaw pulled Leah aside. I've thought about your little problem, she said, and I've made you a special treat. She gave Leah a little cloth bag. Inside was a cookie, studded with rainbow sprinkles and still warm from the oven. Eat it when you're home, she said. I've put a few magic ingredients in. They will help you grow big and strong. It may take a year or two to kick in, but once you eat it, you'll be right on track. Really? Leah asked, looking wide-eyed at the cookie. You've got the Meemaw guarantee, she said. Now get on home. I love you. Love you too, Meemaw. That night when they got home, Leah threw her suitcase on her bedroom floor and immediately ran to see Hippo. The cat had missed her just as badly as she had missed him, and they held each other tight, squeaking and meowing and giggling and rolling. Good kitty, she said, scratching his favorite spot between his ears. Did you miss me? Meow. Oh, I missed you too. Leah got ready for bed and set the special cookie from her Meemaw on her desk. She was pretty sure that it was just a normal cookie and Meemaw was trying to be sweet. But maybe it would help. I'll eat you in the morning, she said to the cookie. Meow, Hippo said, curling in his customary spot at the foot of her bed. Good night, Leah. Good night, Leah, her parents said, ducking into her room to give her a kiss on the forehead. Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad, Leah said, yawning. See you in the morning. She fell asleep fast, happy to be back in her own bed. The next morning, she woke up with the sun, her thoughts going to the magic cookie immediately. She turned to her desk and saw Hippo, crumbs all in his whiskers. Hippo! She shouted. What did you do? Meow, the cat said, licking his mouth. Leah ran over, but the cloth bag was empty, save for a few crumbs. You ate the whole thing? Leah said, and Hippo jumped off the desk, his mischievous tail swaying. That was my cookie, you lousy cat! Leah sighed, falling back onto her bed. It's not like she really thought the cookie would help her grow, but it had been nice to be a little hopeful, instead of just plain little. Leah, her dad called. You getting ready for school? You gotta head out soon. Yeah, I'm getting ready. Leah got dressed, throwing occasional dirty looks to Hippo, who laid on her bed, licking cookie crumbs from his paws. By the time she was ready, she had already forgiven her little cat. He was so cute, and he didn't really know any better. It was her fault for leaving the food out on her desk. You're a good boy, she said, patting him between the ears. I think that cookie made you gain a little weight, though. Good for you. At least one of us is getting bigger. Meow, he purred. and together they hugged her parents goodbye and headed out the door. Hippo walked with Leah to school most days. It was only a couple blocks away, and the cat liked to prowl around outside whenever he was able. They had tried to keep him indoors at first, but he was so skinny and quick, he always seemed to sneak out no matter what they did. "Okay, Hippo," Leah said when they got to the school. "Have a nice day." "Meow," Hippo said, wiggling all over. He really did look bigger today, if only a little. "You're looking a little sick, I guess," Leah said, seeing the cat was starting to swell just a little bit. "You head home and rest, okay? Go on, home." "Meow," Hippo said, and he turned back to the house. "Cute cat," called another girl from the schoolyard when Leah walked in. "What, did you ride into school?" The other girls laughed and Leah blushed. "Oh my gosh, it was just a joke, 'cause you're small, get it?" the girl said. "Come on and play with us." Leah joined them, happy to be invited, but wishing they could have done it without commenting on her size first. The school day was pretty normal from there, until social studies. Leah was at her desk by the window, working on labeling a map project, when she heard a low, rumbling sound. At first, she thought it must be a motorcycle outside, but then she looked to her right and nearly screamed. Outside the window, peering in with a bright yellow eye, was Hippo. The only problem was, social studies class was on the 3rd floor, and Hippo's face was as big as a whiteboard. I need to go to the bathroom," Leah said, and then she ran out the door, down the stairs, and out through the front door of the school. "Hippo!" she called across the empty schoolyard. "Hippo, where are you?" "Meow." Leah's jaw dropped as her cat came around the corner. He looked like the same old Hippo, except he was as tall as the school, each paw big enough to crush a school bus. "What happened? What's going on?" Hippo leaned down to sniff at her and then gave her a lick. His tongue was the size of her whole body and wet and sandpapery and left Leah covered in drool. "No, bad kitty. How are you so big?" "The cookie." "Meow," Hippo said, crouching down and nudging at her with his huge face. "What do you want, Hippo?" He turned his head and pushed again, and Leah had a sudden realization. "Oh, you want to be scratched," she said, and she couldn't help but laugh. She stood on her tippy toes and reached his favorite spot between the ears. He purred like a motorcycle again, his whole body rumbling so hard the swing set was shaking. "Oh, man," Leah said. "We need to get you home and figure this out. I'll be in so much trouble if I get caught bringing a giant cat to school. Okay, Hippo? Go on, home." She said it as she was still scratching between his ears, and when he stood up, she had no choice but to hold on. In a moment, she was riding on top of his head, the ground far below. "Hippo, no! Let me down!" "Meow," Hippo said, and he started walking home. It was only a couple blocks, but the sight of them together drew a crowd. People stopped and stared. They dropped what they were carrying and shouted in surprise. Cars crashed, radios snapped off, and someone out for a jog ran straight into a stop sign. Hippo ignored it all, proudly strutting through the streets, tail swaying 100 feet in the air. When they got back to the house, Hippo tried to fit through the front door and meowed loudly when he couldn't fit. Leah took the opportunity to hop off and run inside. Mom and Dad were at work, so she ran straight for the phone and dialed her Meemaw's number. It rang a dozen times until Meemaw finally picked up. Hello, she said. "Meemaw, it's me," Leah said. "I need help. The cookie." "Oh, what's wrong? Did you lose it?" Wait a moment, Leah. Shouldn't you be in school?" "Meemaw, Hippo ate the cookie." Meemaw gasped on the other end of the line. Leah heard her rattling and bustling. Your cat? She said. Oh, honey, that's not good. The magic was baked in for a human. There's no telling what could happen if a cat eats it. Leah looked out the front door to where Hippo sat in the street. He was blocking traffic, and car horns were blaring as he gave himself a bath with his giant tongue and coughed up a hairball the size of a rose bush. Yeah, I have a pretty good idea of what could happen, actually, Leah said. Hippo is about 4 stories tall, and I think he's still growing. Oh, well, that's not good, Meemaw said. Outside, Leah heard the distant sound of police sirens. Not good is an understatement, she said. Meemaw, how do I turn him back? Hold on, let me look, Meemaw said. On the other end of the phone, Leah could hear her flipping through books frantically, thumping them down and pulling new ones off the shelf. Big cat, let me see. Outside, the police had pulled up in front of the giant cat. They were looking up at him now, scratching their heads in confusion. Oh, there it is. Got it, said Meemaw. All you need to do is make him eat Make him eat a what? A cantaloupe. A whole one. Outside, one of the police officers had pulled out a bullhorn and his voice boomed up at Hippo, who was currently chewing a mat out of his butt fur.
Attention, giant cat, they boomed. Please remove yourself from the road. You are being a bad kitty.
A cantaloupe. Got it, Meemaw. I gotta go. Good luck! Leah hung up the phone and ran outside. Officers, wait! Leah called, waving her arms. That's my cat! To be continued. Thanks for listening!